On this second training mission, we will use the procedures of the real aircraft to learn how to do a cold start by the book. We will skip procedure steps for items not implemented yet, and we will contact ATC after starting engines, as the ground power option is not ready for early access. This mission focuses on the pilot's cold start procedures. On a future training mission, we will study the weapon systems officer's part on the cold start. This training series is set on the Nevada map, and the approximate mission time is 45 minutes. It is getting dark. You can enable your flashlight with the keys left Alt plus L. The pilot body can be toggled with right Shift plus P. If the outside noise becomes too intrusive, you can toggle the cockpit canopy with left Control plus C. Press spacebar to begin. We will start by confirming important items that should have been done during the initial cockpit check of the F-15E. On the mics panel. Mic switch, set to on. Mic is the intercom function selector switch. Selecting on provides direct communication from the cockpit in which it is selected with the other cockpit or the ground crew. On the exterior lights panel, all switches as required. Anti-collision, on. There are 3 red anti-collision lights, one on the leading edge of each wing, just outboard of the air intake, and another just below the tip of the right vertical tail fin. Turn them on, so that the ground crew will be alerted once we start engines. Position lights, set to brightness 3. When the anti-collision lights are on, the position lights automatically go to steady full brilliance, regardless of the setting of this knob. Formation and vertical tail flood lights. On for night flights, off otherwise. The formation lights knob control the brightness of 6 position lights, 2 on wingtips, 1 on each side of fuselage forward of the cockpit, and 1 on the aft fuselage, behind the wing. The vertical tail flood switch controls 2 tail flood lights, which are used during nighttime operations, and formation flying. The switch has 3 positions, bright, dim, and off. On the throttle quadrant. Throttles, levers fully back, on the off position. Use right Alt plus End, to set the left engine throttle to off, and right Shift plus End, for the right throttle. Advancing the throttle from off to idle, during engine start, opens the main fuel shutoff valve in the fuel control, and turns on engine ignition. Movement of the throttles from idle to off, closes the main fuel shutoff valve in the fuel control, stopping fuel flow to the engine. On the fuel control panel, conformal fuel tank switch, set to stop trans. The reason why the CNF tanks are set that way is because, in flight, all external tanks are pressurized and can transfer fuel. On the ground, since external wing and centerline tanks are depressurized, no fuel will transfer from those tanks. However, the CFTs can transfer fuel even on the ground, since the CFT transfer pumps operate continuously. For this reason, this switch is set to stop transfer while on the ground, and then set to norm once on the air. On the miscellaneous control panel, inlet ramp switches, set to auto. On this position, the Air Inlet Controller, AIC, automatically controls the air inlet system. The AIC uses angle of attack, aircraft Mach number and other data to automatically schedule the ramps of the engine elements throughout the aircraft angle. The forward ramp is locked in the up position until the engine is started. On the CAS panel, CAS switches, all to on. Superimposed on the hydromechanical flight control system is a 3-channel, 3-axis control augmentation system, CAS. For the autopilot to work, it is necessary that all 3 CAS switches are set to on. On the oxygen panel, oxygen supply lever, switch to on, to enable the molecular sieve oxygen generating system, MSOGS, which supplies breathing gas to the crew member. On the engine control panel, generator switches, set to on. Each generator will be activated automatically once its corresponding engine reaches 56% engine RPM. Engine control switches, set to on, to enable the IDEEC of each engine. The F-15E, simulated for DCS, is powered by 2 Pratt & Whitney F100PW229 turbofan engines, with afterburners. The -229 engine is controlled by an improved digital electronic engine control, IDEEC, which automatically adjusts the engine to maintain optimum performance. JFS starter switch, set to on. The jet fuel starter, JFS, is a small jet turbine, similar to the APU of other aircrafts. It allows F-15 pilots to start the main engines without the need to connect to external engine starting equipment. Engine master switches. Set to on, after lifting their covers. When set to on, once electrical power is available, its corresponding engine fuel shutoff valve will open, and its fuel transfer pumps will be activated. The engine master switch must be on, before the corresponding engine can be coupled to the JFS. Set both switches to on, and close their covers. On the air conditioning panel, temperature control switch, set to auto, with 2 right clicks, to enable cooling of the aircraft's avionics bay. The normal engine start procedure does not need external power. It is good practice to start the right engine, number 2, first, as this allows proper checking of the right hydraulic utility pump. The utility system has a left pump which operates at a pressure of 3000 psi, and a right pump which operates at 2750 psi. By starting the right engine first, we will be able to notice if both pumps work correctly. If we start the left first, its higher pressure pump would mask a failed right pump. The jet fuel starter, JFS, is used to crank the engines for starting. It is mounted on the central gearbox and along with the airframe-mounted accessory drive, AMAD, provides rotation and initial electric power for start. The JFS itself is started by accumulated hydraulic pressure. JFS handle. Pull and release, by left-clicking on it. Starter ready light, check it illuminates within 10 seconds of pulling the JFS handle. Press spacebar once it's lit. Fire extinguisher switch. Set to test, with a left click and hold. Observe the AMAD red fire warning light goes on, and warning AMAD fire voice warning is heard. At this point only the AMAD fire detector circuit is tested.
Warning, AMAD fire. Warning,
Okay,
AMAD
having checked
fire.
that the fire extinguisher will work if a fire were to happen on the AMAD, we are ready to start the right engine. Right finger lift. Raise and release, by clicking on it. This action engages the JFS to the right engine. Engine monitor display, EMD. Observe right RPM. The EMD display will activate once the emergency generator comes online, at around 15% RPM. During engine starts, only RPM and temperature will be displayed, until one main generator is online, then all engine data will be displayed. Before starting the engine, we will repeat the fire test. This time, both the AMAD and the engine fire detection circuits will be tested. Fire extinguisher switch. Move to test, with a left click and hold. Check both AMAD and engine red fire lights go on, and the voice warnings are heard twice.
Warning, AMAD fire. Warning,
You can cut
AMAD
short the
fire.
audio warnings
Warning,
by pressing the
engine
voice warning
fire.
silencer
Warning,
button.
engine fire.
You may need to press it twice. Having checked that the fire extinguisher will work if a fire were to happen, on either the AMAD or the engines, we are ready to start the right engine. Right throttle, once over 20% RPM, move it to idle with right shift plus home. This opens the fuel flow to the engine, and after approximately 10 seconds, the right engine RPM should start to rise. Engine instruments, check. The fan turbine inlet temperature should be between 625 to 1090 degrees Celsius. Oil pressure within 15 to 80 psi. At around 52 to 55% RPM, you can hear the JFS spools down. At 57% RPM, the right generator should come online, and the right inlet ramp should drop. Check the utility hydraulic gauge, it should show 2750 psi. At 71 to 72% RPM, the engine stabilizes at idle. Press spacebar once the engine is stable. The master caution lights, on the upper instrument panel in both cockpits, come on simultaneously whenever a critical yellow caution illuminates. They also come on if any MPD or MPCD caution appears. Press the master caution light to acknowledge the cautions, but the caution lights remains on until its cause is cleared. Canopy unlocked warning lights. Located on the upper right of the instrument panel in each cockpit, they come on whenever the canopy is unlocked and an engine is running. Lights test switch. Set to on with a left click and hold to test the warning, caution, and advisory lights. If in the low intensity night mode, the lights will test at the dimmed setting, as controlled by the warning caution control knob. Radios 1 and 2. Set to on. On a future training mission, we will study the F-15E radio employment in more detail. For now we will just learn how to activate the radio, and use basic preset tuning. First, turn up the UFCP brightness, by turning the highlighted knob clockwise. Press spacebar once you can read the UFCP clearly. Note that both radios, R1, UHF, and R2, VHF-UHF, are currently off, as indicated on the fifth row of the UFCP. Our simulated F-15E is not equipped with a third or fourth radio. Turn the radio knobs to turn each radio on, and keep turning to select a preset station. For this missions, set both to the preset number 2, which corresponds to the ATC frequencies. Use the highlighted knobs to turn up each radio's volume, as the default level is fairly low. To transmit on each radio, you need to bind at least the following controls. Mic switch forward, to call radio 1 menu, and mic switch aft, to call radio 2 menu. Push the mic switch forward or aft, to contact ATC. The DCS communications menu should appear. Its top line identifies which radio we are using. Note that on the UFCP, a letter T will appear next to the radio being used. Select F5, ATC. F1, Tonopah Test Range. F3, Request Startup. Press spacebar once you have received clearance from the tower. Also, press F12 to clear the DCS communications menu. Before starting the left engine, we need to perform a third and final fire warning check. This time, all 3 fire detection circuits will be tested: AMAD, engines, and afterburners. Fire extinguisher switch, move to test again, with a left click and hold. Check AMAD, engine left and right, and afterburner left and right. Red fire lights go on, and all the voice warnings are heard twice.
Warning, AMAD, fire. Warning, AMAD, fire. Warning, engine, fire, left.
You can cut short the audio
engine,
warnings
fire,
by pressing
left.
the voice warning silencer
AB,
button.
burn through, left.
You
AB,
may
burn
need to press
through,
it
right.
twice. Having fully checked the fire extinguisher system, we will now start the left engine. Left finger lift. Raise and release, by clicking on the left engine's finger lift. This action engages the JFS to the number 1 engine. Engine monitor display, EMD. Observe left RPM. Left throttle. Once over 20% RPM, move it to idle with right Alt plus Home. After approximately 10 seconds, the left engine RPM should start to rise. Engine instruments, check. The fan turbine inlet temperature should be between 625 to 1090 degrees Celsius. Oil pressure within 15 to 80 psi. Check the utility hydraulic gauge, it should show 3000 psi. At around 52 to 55% RPM, you can hear the JFS spools down. At 57% RPM, the left generator should come online, and the left inlet ramp should fall down. At 71 to 72% RPM, the engine stabilizes at idle. Press spacebar once the engine is stable. Jet fuel starter. Confirm its green light is off, JFS switch still on. During the engine start, the JFS is automatically shut down after both engines are started. Canopy. Close if desired, with a right click on its lever. Locking the canopy causes a hydraulic block, so be sure to have the canopy completely against the windscreen, before placing the handle in the locked position with a second right click. Note that all 3 mirrors can be adjusted using the mouse wheel. You can also press the M key to deactivate the live mirror image and increase graphics performance. MPDs and MPCDs, turn on. A 2-position rocker switch provides electrical power to the displays. When cold starting, the aircrew must turn on the displays. However, if the aircrew experiences a brief power interrupt in flight, the displays will automatically come up, without needing to use their switches again. HUD and UFCP. Set to on, by turning their brightness knobs clockwise. We already did this for the UFCP on a prior step, do the same with the HUD. DTM, transfer as required. The data transfer module set consists of the data transfer module receptacle, on the main instrument panel, and the data transfer module, DTM. Mission data is loaded on the ground, by the aircrew or operations personnel, and stored in the module. Then, the module is carried to the aircraft, and inserted into the DTM receptacle to initialize the aircraft's central computer with the mission data. Currently, the DTM is not simulated yet. Press spacebar to continue. Brakes, check. The aircraft's main landing gear wheels are equipped with hydraulically powered brakes, operated by toe action on the rudder pedals. We have enabled the controls overlay of DCS, alternately press on the pedals to confirm their operation. Holding brake, set to on. The holding brake is electrically controlled by this switch, which is electrically held in the on position. It automatically switches off when a throttle is moved above idle, the aircraft is weighed off wheels, or electrical power is removed. The holding brake, on, signal, is used by the INS to re-enter alignment after an interrupted alignment occurs. Sensor control panel. Set. Terrain following radar power switch, TFRDR, set to standby. The terrain following radar is not yet available at this stage of early access. Radar altimeter power switch, radar alt, set to on. When set to off, it also disables low altitude warnings, even if LAW is enabled at the same time. Override deactivates the radar altimeter, but leaves the LAW and TF warnings on. Radar power switch, set to standby. The F-15E is equipped with the APG-70, which is a high-frequency pulse Doppler radar, capable of operating both in air-to-air and air-to-ground modes. In this standby mode, the radar will begin warming up, which takes around 3 minutes. After that time, it can be placed in full operation by turning this knob to on. On the left multi-purpose display, MPD, push the highlighted button, AA radar, to display the air-to-air radar screen. While the radar is on standby, the STBY status will appear on the lower right corner of the display. Other indications are off, EMER, and blank when the radar is on. Press spacebar to continue. Nav FLIR power switch, set to standby. The navigation with forward-looking infrared capabilities are delivered by the AAQ-13 navigation pod. It provides infrared, forward terrain video on a HUD display, in support of the terrain following radar operation, not available in early access. The navigation pod has to be installed on the jet, in order for the pilot to be able to use the nav FLIR capabilities. Do not confuse with the targeting pod's TGP FLIR, which is turned on at the rear cockpit. JTID switch, set to norm. The Joint Tactical Information Distribution System, JTIDS, is a secure and jam-resistant data communication system. It enables the exchange of real-time tactical information between friendly joint forces concerning friendly and enemy forces. The JTIDS is not yet available in the current version of the F-15E module. The Inertial Navigation System, INS, is a self-contained, fully automatic ring laser gyro system, which supplies the primary attitude reference for the aircraft, and provides continuous present position monitoring. In addition, the INS provides aircraft attitude, heading, velocity, and acceleration information to the lantern, radar, AFCS, and central computer. The INS needs an initial alignment before it can provide accurate navigation. The F-15E offers two types of alignment process. 1. Stored heading alignment, which uses alignment parameters that were stored at the time of the last system shutoff for a rapid INS alignment. SH alignment is complete approximately 40 seconds after turn on and should achieve approximately GC align accuracy. 2. Euro compass alignment, GC, is the most accurate mode of INS alignment and does not depend on prior aircraft use or position, but it requires approximately 4 minutes. For this training mission, we will perform a full GC alignment. INS knob, set to GC align. Use a right click to move the knob clockwise. If you do a left click, it will move on the other direction to store, which will force you to redo the alignment. The HUD will display the INS alignment status. Currently it is GC no taxi, reminding you that you should not move the aircraft while aligning. After approximately 60 seconds, the status will change to GC plus a number, which indicates the alignment quality. The higher the number, the less accurate the alignment. It will gradually decrease until the legend says GC OK. The alignment process requires that the present position of the aircraft be known to the INS. The UFCP automatically shows the PP source, where the pilot can evaluate the PP being used for INS alignment. Generally, this position is not very precise, but you can input a fully accurate one instead. Open the DCS knee board. Its first page will contain our mission worksheet, including our initial position. Do it now by pressing right Shift plus K. You can see that the latitude and longitude shown by the UFCP on its second and third lines match, but not exactly. Let's input the correct latitude from the knee board, employing the UFCP keypad. First press SHF and 2 to enter, and for north, the value is entered on the last line of the UFCP, called the scratch pad. Good. Continue by entering the numeric part of the latitude, 3, 7, 4, 7, 1, 0, 6. A leading 0 must be included if the latitude degrees are less than 2 digits. Do not input the decimal point, as it is assumed. To ease the numeric inputs, you may want to bind the numeric keypad of the UFCP to the numeric pad of your keyboard, on the way shown on the figure. Once the full correct latitude has been typed onto the scratch pad, enter it by pressing the highlighted button. On the same way, we will now input the longitude. First press Shift 4 to enter W for west, then continue with the numeric part of the longitude, 1, 1, 6, 4, 6, 0, 2, 0, 1 or 2 leading zeros must be included if the latitude degrees are less than 3 digits. Once the full correct longitude has been typed onto the scratch pad, enter it by pressing the highlighted button. Good, the INS alignment will employ this updated present position. The system will continue the alignment, which you can monitor on the HUD. As it takes around 4 minutes, you can in the meantime continue with other steps of the cold start. Press spacebar to continue with the training. Flight controls, check, CAS off. We will now perform a quick check of the flight controls, with the control augmentation system disabled. You can check the movement of the flight surfaces, either using the F2 external view, or from inside the cockpit by turning your head or looking onto the mirrors. Set all 3 CAS channels off. On the right MPD, the cautions CAS pitch, CAS roll, and CAS yaw should appear, confirming the disabled channels. Anti-skid, check norm. For this check, the anti-skid should be enabled. Press spacebar to initiate the check. Flight stick full aft and left. Observe stabilator trailing edge up, left further up than right. Rudder left. Press the stick strength to continue the check. Use the spacebar as well. Stick full left and full forward. Observe right stabilator leading edge moves into view, and rudders move right, ailerons should not move. Press the stick's trigger or the space bar to continue. Stick full forward and full right. Observe left aileron moves down and right aileron moves up. Rudders move left, and left stabilator leading edge in view. Press the stick's trigger or the space bar to continue. Stick full right and full aft. Observe stabilator trailing edge moves to full up, right higher than left, and rudder moves right. Ailerons should not move. Press the stick's trigger or the space bar to continue. Rudder. Leave stick neutral. Press and hold the paddle switch in order to not move the nose wheel, which would disturb the INS alignment. Move the rudder pedals left and right, and observe half rudder travel, 15 degrees. Good. This completes the check of flight controls without CAS. We will now repeat the check, but this time with CAS active. Press spacebar to continue. Flight controls. Check, with CAS on. On the CAS panel, set the yaw, roll, and pitch channels to on. On the right MPD, confirm that the cautions CAS pitch, CAS roll, and CAS yaw have disappeared. Pitch ratio switch, set to emergency. Note on the gauge a pitch ratio of 0.3 to 0.5. Pitch ratio is the ratio of stabilator motion versus longitudinal stick motion. Usually set to auto, where the ratio is automatically adjusted to provide the same pitch response for a given stick deflection, regardless of airspeed. The emergency position causes the pitch ratio to be set to a fixed mid-range position. Takeoff trim button. Push until departure warning tone beeps. This button moves the aircraft's ailerons, rudder, and stabilator actuators to the takeoff position. The TO trim light then comes on. The departure tone will sound after the takeoff trim is within limits. The trim light will go out, and the tone will cease once the button is released. The takeoff position produces a slight nose-up trim position, which provides maximum nose-up stabilator authority for takeoff.
Yaw rate.
Pitch ratio
Yaw
switch.
rate.
Set it back to auto. The gauge should indicate a 0.9 to 1.0 pitch ratio. Stick full aft and hold. Verify stabilator training edge travels up rapidly with stick application until full aft stick is reached. Press the stick's gun trigger to continue the check. If you have not binded the trigger, you can use the spacebar as well. Flight stick full aft and left. Observe stabilator trailing edge up, left further up than right. Rudder left. Left aileron up. And right aileron down. Press the stick's trigger, or the spacebar, to continue. Stick full left and full forward. Observe right stabilator leading edge moves into view, and rudders move right, ailerons should not move. Press the stick's gun trigger to continue the check. If you have not binded the trigger, you can use the spacebar as well. Stick full forward and full right. Observe left aileron moves down and right aileron moves up, rudders move left, and left stabilator leading edge in view. Press the stick's trigger, or the spacebar, to continue. Stick full right and full aft. Observe stabilator trailing edge moves to full up, right higher than left, and rudder moves right, ailerons should not move. Press the stick's gun trigger to continue the check. If you have not binded the trigger, you can use the spacebar as well. Rudder, leave stick neutral. Press and hold the paddle switch in order to not move the nose wheel, which would disturb the INS alignment. Move rudder pedals left and right and observe full rudder travel, 30 degrees. With stick and rudder pedals neutral, verify the flight control surfaces still are at takeoff trim position. This completes the check of flight controls with CAS enabled. Press spacebar to continue. Avionics. As required. We have already enabled the radios R1 and R2. Other avionics equipment that we can enable at this point using the UFCP are the TACAN and ILS navigation aids. However, we will examine both TACAN and ILS training later on individual training missions. Press spacebar to continue. Total fuel quantity, check. The upper counter of the fuel quantity gauge indicates total aircraft fuel, including conformal fuel tanks, and any drop tanks attached. You can turn its selector knob to check the individual tanks, their amount being shown by the lower counters, marked left and right. The gauge's needle indicates total internal fuel. Use the knob to select the bingo low fuel alarm. Set it to 3,000 pounds. Conformal fuel tank switch. Set to norm. Bleed air. Check. The air source knob selects the engine bleed air source for the ECS system. Confirm it is set to both, for taking bleed from both engines simultaneously. Press spacebar to continue. PAX. Program is required. The Programmable Armament Control Set, PAX, provides weapons monitoring and management capabilities. It is used for selection, pre-launch preparation, launch and jettison of both air-to-air and air-to-ground munitions. We will cover both aspects on separate training missions. Press spacebar to continue. MPD and MPCD. Program as desired. The F-15E has a very neat system of programming the MPDs and MPCDs to allow the pilot easy and quick access to what he or she needs. There is a built-in training mission on how to do this programming, so we will not delve on it here. Press spacebar to continue. Master modes. Program, if desired. Apart from setting up the pages on each display, it is also possible to configure them for each master mode. Learn about this on another built-in F-15E training mission. Press spacebar to continue. Radar power switch, set to on. The radar is by now fully warmed up, so turn the knob to its on position. The radar will still not work while the aircraft is on the ground, but will begin operation as soon as we take off. Flaps. Down. On the F-15E, each wing has a two-position trailing edge flap. The flaps automatically retract if the aircraft speed exceeds 250 knots. The flaps will automatically return to the down position at no less than 230 knots, provided that the flap control switch is still in the down position. Make sure to bind the flaps control to your HOTAS, as shown on the figure. Speed brake. Cycle. The speed brake is located on the upper surface of the center fuselage. It can be positioned to any intermediate position, and fully extended with AOA below approximately 25 units. Make sure to bind the speed brake controls to your HOTAS, as shown on the figure. If AOA is above 25 units, the speed brake will not extend when selected. If the speed brake is extended, it will automatically retract when AOA increases through 25 units. Aerial refueling slipway switch. Cycle. This switch controls the hydraulically operated slipway door, and also controls the Tank 1 and CFT transfer pumps, the external fuel tank pressurization, and the fuel sequencing. INS mode knob. Turn to its nav position, as the alignment has finished. We can now inspect our flight plan. For example, on the MPCD, select the TSD page, Tactical Situation Display. You can hide the flight stick by clicking on its base, in order to have a better view of the display. On the display, the white circles are our flight plan waypoints, and the white lines being the route legs. You can use the ZM button to select amongst 4 zoom levels. Press spacebar to continue. Standby attitude indicator. Caged then uncaged. Left click and hold, while using the mouse wheel to uncage. Press spacebar once uncaged. Altimeter. Set and check. The HUD and the altimeter should agree within ± 60 feet. Press spacebar to continue. Arm the ejection seat by pulling the highlighted lever back. Ask the ground crew to remove wheel chocks by pressing the / key. The first line of the DCS communications menu should say interphone, as we use the / key instead of the mic binding of our HOTAS. Select F11, parent menu, if F8 not visible. F8, ground crew. F4, wheel chocks. Press spacebar once the crew has removed the chocks.
Chief, remove the wheel chocks.
Copy. Wheel chocks are now removed.
Very good. You have completed this detailed cold start training mission. It's been long, but you have managed to grasp a more authentic experience about how the real Strike Eagle is started. Press spacebar to exit from the mission.